All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the very new BFP Roundtable series. This is a brand new video series that we're going to be doing here at Boiling Frogs Post. I am Pearse Redmond, and joining me for this inaugural episode is Guillermo Jimenez and Sibel Edmonds, obviously both of BoilingFrogsPost.com. And before we kind of get into the actual episode and the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be discussing, we thought it'd be a good idea to sort of break down what the show is going to be, how we're going to be formatting everything, the types of topics, and why it is that there is going to be a bit of a change in the BFP Roundtable series. So, first and foremost, we want this to be a very interactive series. We want to have as much viewer participation as possible, and there is a very thriving comment section on almost every single post that's on BFP, and we really do appreciate all of that. So we certainly want you to let us know what you think about episodes, suggest topics, and really start a dialogue. Not just I liked this and I didn't like that. Really give us some sort of constructive ideas and start to have a real conversation going back and forth. Sibel, we were talking a little bit before about off air about some of our particular goals. But what do you particularly want to get out of this new roundtable series?
Several things. One important objective for all of us at BFP is, as you said, we can have a debate session and talk and say bye. And when it ends there, or floats there, and then you do something else, for me, it feels almost purposeless. It's like, okay, so we talked about this thing, there were 3 or 4 of us, and then it ended there. While we are introducing a topic, we are maybe bringing in 2 or 3 point of views, like yours in this case, but what we're going to be doing today, Guillermo's and I. That is just the beginning. What we want is for our community members to take this and further the debate, because we are not limited to 2 or 3 point of views of what Guillermo and Sibel and Pearse or Tom or someone else. There are other angles that need to be considered. There are other point of views that we need to debate, and that is what we mean by saying furthering the debate, expanding it, and moving together and have a much richer discussion rather than something that is limited to 2 or 3 of us with some expert guests. There are so many of those. This is exactly why I started the podcast series, Probable Cause. I wanted that because we do the podcast, we have a podcast session, but the meat and the best part is what you get to see in the discussion section, people criticizing, people adding, people taking away, and that's the part that makes it great, and that's exactly what we want.
And I think there's so much of the kind of cut and paste, very simple podcast discussions going on in the alternative media where, let's start at point A and let's go to point B, and then that's sort of the end of it. And they're very sort of final. Whereas with this, I think, this will really be an organic experience. This is going to keep moving, and, we might start with one topic and discuss as much as we want, and then by the end of it, we'll be on to something completely different, and we can pick up from there. We can have people add. And I think that's what's going to make this unique, as opposed to, okay, let's talk for 40 minutes, and at the end of it, then that's it. We'll just sort of put that away on the shelf, and we don't need to really get into it anymore. So that's, a really exciting part of this. Guillermo, you got anything to add?
Yeah, for sure. No, I really like the idea. In fact, Sibel mentioned that it's just going to be very much like the podcast that she's been doing, where it's going to be a lot of interaction with the BFP community, and I really like that. Again, I think just to be clear about it, that I think that there's room for all of that sort of stuff within the alt media. I think there's room for the straight interview. Those are you can get a lot of value out of that. There's room for casual conversations about a number of topics. There's value in that. But what there hasn't been enough of, and what there's also value in, is the sort of stuff that we're talking about, interacting with your viewers, your audience, in a direct way. And so what you'll see is with this video, with this series, it'll be very much like what you've been seeing with Sibel's posts. We'll be there, we'll be interacting a bit, and we'll get some feedback on what we discussed and what you want us to discuss, where you want to see the conversation go from there. And so I think that's great, because like you were saying, it's much better to have 1,000, 100 heads than just the 3 heads here talking about whatever issue might be. Get a diverse range of opinions and see where you can take this. And that ultimately, that's what it's about. I mean, ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want to reach as many people as possible and have them start thinking about that and let us know, okay, well, this is what I think, and this is where I think this needs to go, and that's only a positive, I think. So I think it's great. And also, as far as the format of the show, we were talking a bit about this earlier. Just a little behind the scenes for the audience. We've been talking for about an hour already.
Yes,
we had a number of technical difficulties we were working through, so we're finally got this going. But what we were talking about is all the different things that we want to put into the show, and the different reasons why we want it to be the way it's going to be. And part of it is going to be just the way that other shows on BFP are subscriber supported. That's the model that we've chosen to go with, and I think it's a very, very good one. And I know that not everyone agrees with that. Not everyone likes that idea. And part of me, I can understand that. Growing up on the internet, basically, my generation, you get the sense, this sort of like this idea that everything on the internet, ought to be free. Everything on the internet just ought to be readily available, freely available. You shouldn't have to pay for anything. And I sympathize with that. I see what you're saying there, but on the other hand, a lot of this stuff requires out-of-pocket costs for the people doing it, and it requires a lot of time and effort in putting them together. And in order to do it on a sort of long-term basis, on a serious level, on a professional level, it requires funds. And so you have a number of different options there. You can go with the advertising route, which is what traditional TV and radio do, right? What traditional websites like New York Times or whatever it might be, Huffington Post, I think they might even do like a paywall section, or the Wall Street Journal, whatever it might be. There's a number of different outlets that go that route, that do an advertising route. So you can do that. More technical difficulties, apologies. Yeah, my microphone's going crazy. So you can do that. You can do the donation route, right? You can do the foundation donor route, and then you can do the direct people funded route, which is the route that I think is I think it's the most viable from a strictly sort of economic sense, and I think it's also the most for lack of a better word, just the most independent route, the route that keeps everyone honest. It's completely directly funded by the people that want to hear and listen to this and support it through donations and through subscriptions. I think that's the best way to go. I know, Sibel, you have plenty to say about that, so I'll cede the floor to you as far as why we're doing it this way.
You covered some of the most important points with this, and the fact that there is room for all these different styles and availabilities. There, and as you said, we are people who are working full-time, and we have family responsibilities. But we want to be able to commit and say, we're going to bring this to you 2 or 4 or 5 or 3 times a month. Well, not that whenever I have time, I'm going to record something, put it there. Some people are independently wealthy. They are able to do that. Some people, they don't have to work. They are with their families, living there with their parents, and they can't do that. But we are not in that situation. And one thing you mentioned, Guillermo, I think that's an important point to clarify for me a little bit. When you said we want to reach as many people as possible, is absolutely true. Diverse is absolutely true. But I also want to emphasize the fact that we don't want to go only for quantity. I mean, instead of having 15,000 people coming watching my YouTube, some of them basically throwing in some dirty language out there or some really ridiculously shallow response, I would rather to reach out to 3,000 or 5,000 or 7,000 people who are dedicated to the truth. fact-finding, critical thinking, debate. And another important point is I invite people to read the comments posted under our new podcast, Probable Cause, at Boiling Frogs Post. People are coming from all sorts of diverse backgrounds and point of views and political philosophies, etc. However, what we have had ever present for now 18 episodes, it's been going on for 4 months, respect. And that is people respecting each other's point of view, whether they agree with it or not. And they try to really critically think and articulate their response, be, again, respectful of other people, and help us further our research, our discussion. I rather work with smaller group, but dedicated community, activist community like Boiling Frogs Post, than open there and have Kim Kardashian's sister come and join there and say, "Ooh, cool! I liked it." I don't want to be open for that. I feel like we are putting our valuable time and we are recording this. We are putting our heart and soul into it. We have the passion, and I want to also make a quick mention of our topics. We're gonna cover diverse range of topics. But I still like to see, and again, I'm asking our viewers to join this discussion and let us know. I like to keep certain level of theme and macro topic, and within these we have subtopics, which is really wide range. Whether it's 9/11, whether it's deep state, whether it's Gladio, whether it's some current event with Saudi Arabia and Yemen. But I don't see this show being one day we're going to cover Federal Reserve, the next day we're going to cover pearls in the ocean, and then the other day we're going to, although I love cooking, we're going to talk about gumbo and jambalaya, which I love both. I don't want... I get kind of dizzy when I go to some sites that they are doing too many topics back to back, and some of them seem not really relevant to each other. It's overwhelming. Truly, I get overwhelmed. Instead, I rather get into things deeper, thoroughly, and if it's some sort of a macro theme, again, we have room to cover all sorts of subtopics within this. But again, that's a suggestion, and I want to hear from both of you on that, and also from our viewers.
Well, again, and I think, just to heap a little bit more praise on the BFP community, they're very much about that kind of a type of a show. It's not about, jumping around. I like the idea of this being almost like one continual series, where we're going to start here, and in a year we're still going to be kind of discussing all of these different themes. They're all going to be kind of intertwined with one another, and and that's very exciting. And again, there's really not a whole lot of that going on in the alternative media. It's very much about picking, when even in things with current events, it's, well, how does this fit into a particular conspiracy culture meme that's very popular at the moment? And that becomes what they're sort of drilling into over and over and over again. Whereas with, everybody that's part of BFP, the podcasts are really complex. They're really taking some big issues and taking the time to dissect them. And this is, again, something that just needs more of within the alternative media, and I think that this is a great platform to start getting into that. So I don't know. Do you guys have any other things that you want to talk about in terms of format, in terms of ideas? Yeah.
I can't think. I think we covered most of everything we wanted to get out as far as the structure and the purpose of the show. Did I miss something, Sibel?
No, absolutely. Yeah? We covered everything, and I will echo what Pearse just said, and that is that reactionary knee-jerk coverage. Something happens, and then there is 2-3 days of soundbite coverage here and there, because every time we talked about context, history, parallel examples, then you would see that it's not really news. It's the repetition of the same thing we saw a year and a half ago or 3.5 years ago with Syria, or it is very it's completely parallel to another incident that we just saw happening a year and a half ago, and here are the same actors, and here within the the geostrategic, within the chessboard, and then you can start looking at this bird eye macro view rather than this knee-jerk thing. Oh, this happened, I'm going to cover. That happened, I'm going to cover. Then I'm going to go and look and see blah, blah is happening, and I'm going to go and cover that. I find it really shallow. And I don't even know why some people consider those entertaining. I don't, but I guess people are different. But no, we covered everything, I think. You know?
Okay, well, I mean, I think on that note, I mean, why don't we get into what we wanted to discuss today? And again, coming from the BFP community, recently Peter B. Collins on Processing Distortion talked with Senator Bob Graham, who I'm sure all of the viewers will be somewhat familiar with. He is a former senator who I believe was chair or was a relatively high member on the Senate Intelligence Committee. And he has since made quite a big, splash, both in the mainstream as well as in the alternative, and particularly the pseudo-alternative media, harping on and on ad nauseum about these 28 redacted pages that are part of the 9/11 Commission. They're sometimes referred to the Saudi memo or the 28 pages. In these 28 pages, which of course Bob Graham has seen, but no one else has, he claims that, this is the smoking gun. This explains everything about 9/11 and essentially places almost all blame on Saudi Arabia in terms of funding this, in terms of recruiting the various hijackers. And as I said, he's been on mainstream news. He's been on, like Russia Today. Sibel, I know you absolutely love Democracy Now. He's been on Amy Goodman's show several times. And we wanted to sort of we thought this would be a good topic because, again, viewing this within a bubble. Okay, sure, you can do that, but there are so many other factors at play aside from what's perhaps what is allegedly in these 28 pages. There are lots of geopolitical things going on in the background that are directly related to this 28 pages. But why don't we first just sort of get into this, and I'll offer up my own opinion. And that is that there is no smoking gun in these 28 pages. From the very beginning, literally within days of 9/11 happening, it was the Saudis. The Saudis did everything. Now, not to brush that aside, obviously the Saudis were involved in this. Certainly in terms of helping with the CIA and NATO and almost all the hijackers were Saudi. There's interestingly, there's just a book that came out called Visas for Al-Qaeda by J. Michael Springman, who worked in Jeddah and was actually he was unaware of this at the time, but was actually giving out visas to many of these hijackers at the behest of the CIA. But there's not going to be anything in these 28 pages that is going to solve 9/11, quote unquote. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the alternative media are, praying that they will get some sort of smoking gun, some sort of absolute answer. Oh, this is, this guy and that guy and this woman, they funded them and they sent them here. Oh, and that's it. That, case closed, we're done. Any kind of deep state event, one on the level of 9/11, has got so many different moving parts and so many different actors and players involved in this. There will never be one culprit. That's just impossible. A deep state event is designed so that there never will be one culprit. I don't know. I mean, will there be little bits and pieces in there? Yes, probably. If these pages ever come out, there will be a couple nuggets in there that, the New York Times and Fox News and MSNBC will go on and on and on about. But there's not going to be anything. It'll be very much like Snowden's revelations. This will confirm what many of us have already known, which is that, yes, of course, Saudi Arabia was involved in this. But I don't know. Let me throw it back to you, Guillermo. What's your general take on this?
That was a pretty darn good analogy that you just threw there at the end, because I think that's true. Initially, I was going to say that there probably might be some value in that 28-page memo, but as far as being a or the smoking gun to solve anything, no, obviously not. You can, and I think anyone that's even looking at this just through the media, through the actual lens of the media, if the New York Times and ABC and Fox and all the traditional mainstream media, if they're all talking about it, that's probably not going to be the answer. You know what I mean? That's the hint for me anyway. But one quick point of clarification, and I'm going to ask both of you to help me out here because maybe I'm wrong on this, but it's my understanding that the 28-page memo that we're talking about was not part of the 9/11 Commission report. This is a separate report. Is that right? That just to kind of clarify that one point, right? It's like
I think I might have.
Yeah, looking at no, and it's a really. I mean, I didn't know for sure either way, but I think I'm looking at the website now, and I think many of our viewers have probably already come across this. They might have visited the page. 28pages.org is the website that's primarily behind the campaign to really push this. And so you look here, and they're talking about the intelligence community activities before and after the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. It's a really long title. Oh, I forgot the joint inquiry part of the title here of what we're talking about. But, when I first talked about this a while back on a podcast for BFP, I mentioned this quote because I find it really, really striking, and I'll just read it here briefly. You can, again, it's on the front page of the website. But they're talking about the memo. They're talking about how the George Bush administration censored these 28 pages from this report. And it says here, after reading it, Congressman Thomas Massie described the experience as, quote-unquote, disturbing, and said, I had to stop every 2 or 3 pages and rearrange my perception of history. It's that fundamental. And so I said this then, and I guess I'll repeat it, that I guess that really all depends on what your foundation of history was to begin with, right? Because, I mean, that's all relative. That could, so it could rock someone's world and be like, whatever to me. And again, that analogy was pretty perfect regarding the Snowden revelations, because, again, that to me and to most of us, and I think most of the viewers watching and listening, it really all it did was, again, confirm what we already knew. And then did a whole lot of other stuff that I don't know if we want to get into at the moment, but just primarily fundamentally, that's all really it did was provide some sort of documentary evidence that confirms again what we already knew. And in this case, the value that I see with these 28 pages is again in doing that confirming with evidence what we already know, that there was some sort of Saudi link, financial link here, but it's only valuable to me if that then circles back to the United States and again, once again, demonstrate very vividly the strong alliance between not just the U.S. government and the Saudis, but the Bush regime specifically and the Saudis, a regime that incidentally is set to take the throne again in 2016, more than likely with Jeb. I think that's in my opinion, almost a foregone conclusion at this point. But again, that's a sort of side issue. But maybe not, because again, it's all coming full circle. It's all coming back to, once again, the Bushes back in power. We got the 28 pages, the Saudi links. I mean, it's all, again, circular in a way. But that's sort of my initial take on it. I guess I'll throw it to Sibel, see what you have to say about that.
Well, as someone who went to all the 9/11 Commission hearings that were public and the congressional hearings that were the ones that were public, and being involved with the FBI's translation analysis unit, and knowing a lot from just learning a lot while I was working there from the Arabic desk, which had lots of dealings with Saudi related targets, and that includes also the counterintelligence, which is diplomatic channels, Saudis, embassies, and consulates. And so to know that, I'm going to put it in one basket right there, and then another basket to what I know and what I learned, and all those in another basket next to it. The basket I will put after that, the third one would be, how long has it been, this issue of 28 page? I mean, it is so old. I mean, the families were campaigning for it in 2004, 2005. I worked with the 9/11 widow group, Kristen Breitweiser and Mindy Kleinberg, and all that was done 10 years, 11 years ago. And then that's another basket, and I will put another basket next to that. Who is Graham? He was part of what committee? And why he's been he's been on top of this egg, sitting on these eggs that are so incredible for all these years to come and pound. Granted, initially he wrote a book about it. I was one of the suckers who went and spent like $16.95 in Barnes and Noble and picked up that book. And I went through it because there were supposed to be his explosive claims and on these 28 pages, and how he tried to get them public. And I read those pages, okay? They were all these teasers and fluffs. And then he went back and, started sitting on the same eggs again for another 8 years. Now, why is he, coming? If it were a dinosaur and dinosaur eggs, how many times, we would have hatching? We have had nothing coming out of these eggs. And then, lo and behold, suddenly, right now, the fact that it is smoking guns. I mean, there's so much that already has been done by 9/11 research community. I don't think there's going to be anything there whenever it comes out. And one day they're going to put it out, because those are not the important pages. If the public knows that there exists 28 pages that the United States Washington political community are talking about and advertising for, and mainstream media is publicizing it, you know that those are really worthless 28 pages. And for people within the research community, they're going to come across the names of Prince Turkey. It's going to be all over that, okay? And it's going to be about this check, this $100,000 that was written by this, Faisal's wife, and it was given to, and then supposedly that ended up with one of the suicide operatives. You're going to have more details on that. And think about it. I mean, we had the whole air traffic basically shut down. And our government, and this is the White House and the CIA and the State Department, told the FBI, because I was there working, okay? Step aside. We're going to get all these people with even their last names being Bin Laden on private planes, get them out, okay? Why? Why would you go about protecting those Saudi individuals if those were the masterminds and the implementer of the biggest terror event in the United States? Come on, it doesn't make sense. And Guillermo, you mentioned something and said, even if blah, blah, I'm just going to say blah, blah, there may be some value to that. I would say that totally depends on how it's used. Yeah. Because if, as they have been doing all along, whatever is those small nuggets that they don't really care about, and it's going to become public, mark my word. Maybe it's not now. It may be 3 years from now when Saudi Arabia does something wrong. And I will get into that once we get further into this discussion. When they get that they put it out, and you don't even know if that's the authentic 28-page documents. Who's going to say this is the original 28 pages? Come on. Are you going to take the word of the Intel Committee Senator Graham, who's been sitting on these eggs, okay? I mean, he's like one of those crusty politicians, right? Okay, so let's say I vouch for it. These are the 20 pages I was talking about. And then if that is used, okay, strategically to do something far more evil, is that going to be valuable? I don't know. And again, I'm going to ask people, and we'll get further into this in this discussion. Look at the timing of it, which I know both of you are aware of, and that is how that coincides with Saudi Arabia and Yemen, Saudi's attack on Yemen, what's happening with Iran, what they are trying to make it up to be between Iran and Yemen. And when you put all of that in terms of timeline together, then you're going to end up back again in the same discussions and everything that we have been having here, which is Operation Gladio, the deep state, and the geostrategic picture, macro one, rather than these little nuggets they're putting out there. And I'll let you take it from here.
Well, just kind of piggybacking on some of the things you were mentioning there. Right. Who does Graham work for? Well, not only was he, on the Senate Intelligence Committee, he's now part of the external board of CIA advisors. So he's part of this, completely independent, organization that oversees what the CIA does. And it's stacked with a who's. It's got despicable woman, Franz Townsend, is part of that. Again, very deeply involved in the Bush administration throughout everything that was going on. So yeah, I mean, who is he protecting? When he was talking with Peter B. Collins, the CIA wasn't even mentioned once. It's all about, the FBI failed, the FBI screwed up. And even in that, he refused to admit that the FBI, he was still like, but they're great, they're okay.
Right.
Even though they covered this up. And he went through some verbal gymnastics to be, well, it's not really a cover up, but they, denied the truth to be known.
They were untruths, not
yeah,
lies.
Exactly.
They're not
right.
lies.
And right,
untruths.
yeah, not a lie, not a lie. No, they would never do that.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, and the timing of all of this is really what needs to be focused on. And again, these 28 pages are constantly viewed within a bubble that, well, it just has to do with these 28 pages. And it really only has to do with the old Saudi king, I mean, we don't really need to look at anything else that Saudi Arabia is doing. Let's just look at it in this little tiny capsule. There's nothing else going on, nothing to see here, move along. So, really curious. And, maybe we can kind of begin to just sort of pick apart some of the timing issues and what's going on in Yemen. But again, I mean, as Senator Graham has become increasingly more vocal about we've got to release these 28 pages, we also get the former degenerate king dies. Now we've got a new, slightly younger king, and they're hyping him as more progressive than his progressive father, who beheaded people, and I mean, they don't even have to go into what they're doing. So what does Saudi Arabia? What do they do? What's their initial reaction? Oh well, let's bomb the crap out of this tiny little country just on our southern border. Let's blame this on Iran. Obviously, Iran is backing the Houthis, which is this rebel movement that has, officially now, kicked out the former Western-backed government. And this becomes the focus. Now suddenly, the 28 pages don't matter because Saudi Arabia, they're taking on Iran, who again is in secret cahoots with Obama so that they can get a nuclear weapon, so that they can bomb Israel or whatever ludicrous idea it may be. And to kind of break that apart, and I'll sort of offer up one of my sort of ideas and theories about all of this, is that who's really backing the Houthis? Obviously, Iran has given them financial and military support in the past. What to keep in mind, the Houthis are not Hezbollah. The Houthis have no real desire to influence the region beyond what is going on politically within Yemen, whereas Hezbollah is very much a regional power source. Now, who's really backing the Houthis? Well, it's our dear old friend Ali Abdullah Saleh, the former deep state puppet. Of course, had to have been involved in what was going on with the USS Cole and a whole bunch of different things. Well, he's behind the actual Houthi strength right now. So I didn't wonder is Saleh mentioned in these 28 pages? I mean, this is just an idea or a theory, but it seems very much that what's going on in Yemen is about cleaning up house. It's about, sort of a distraction, but also what happens when they start bombing the Houthis. Oh, Al-Qaeda is suddenly even more powerful in Yemen, this amorphous force. Now we have ISIS going on there. So this seems like partly a distraction and partly perhaps to kind of give everyone one last hurrah. Let's have one big final blowout fight with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and we'll get rid of Saleh. And this also kind of makes the new crown prince seem like he's tough on terrorism. Sort of, if these 28 pages come out, oh, well, that was my father. I mean, look at me now. I mean, I went after the Houthis. I went after Iran. I'm tough on terrorism. So I don't know. I mean, I'll throw that back to you guys if you want to pick that apart at all. I mean, that was just sort of something that came to my mind a few days ago.
Yeah, I'm unclear, honestly, on the timing issue. I mean, I would agree that initially it does seem suspect, the timing of this all. But I guess just to play devil's advocate, if you look at, I mean, Sibel just mentioned earlier that this 28 pages thing is old news. It's been out in the public consciousness since at least 2004, and Grant has been beating this drum since 2011. So he's been at this for a long time, trying to pushing this 28 pages stuff. I guess there may have been a bit of a spike in coverage of the 28 pages a couple of weeks ago. I noticed that there was a few articles They come up quickly when you do a quick Google search. They'll come up dated, April 13th, April 14th. So I'm honestly, I'll leave that. I have more questions on this part of it than answers, honestly, when it comes to the timing. If that's at all connected or not. One quick thing I wanted to echo on what Sibel was saying. On the sort of idea of these 28 pages having any value or not, that was a really good point. It is going to depend on the way that they're used. Ultimately, that's going to depend. That's what the measure of how anything has any value or not is, whether or not they're going to be used properly or not. And one thing to keep in mind as well when we're looking at this is the media spin of it all. Again, if you're looking at this and it's being put out by the New York Times, by the Washington Post, you have to be cautious of that from the jump.
They want you to know.
Exactly. They want this out there for a reason. And what's that reason? That's potentially part of the reason, as you mentioned, Pearse. I'm unsure, but yeah.
Sibel?
I think I'm gonna play the short one here, fairly short one, because and I have a theory from where I've been looking at it, and it parallels somehow what Pearse have also mentioned here, but from a totally different perspective that even excludes Saleh. And here is why. We have had, actually what I'm going to do is I am going to give the macro picture of my theories, because if you guys know me, sometimes once I start talking, it goes like blah, 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 and it's going to go on and on, because I want to do the justice and say this and explain all the pieces, then connect them. So because of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the broad outline of my theory, okay, with the actors involved. And since it's going to take, I think, an entire episode for three of us to dissect it, and I want you to slap me kind of nicely, not too hard, and say, well, how about this, and really poke hole in my theory, and that's okay. That's exactly why we're having debate. Look, the United States has been really aggressive using 9/11, creating 9/11. Okay, I am saying it. Hello, where's my I
forgot to wear it today.
I had one. I'll
make sure I wear it this next time.
I'm like, where did I put that darn thing? But creating 9/11, executing 9/11, using 9/11 for these aggressive wars, right? Direct U.S. wars. Iraq was a direct war, okay? And then it was Afghanistan simultaneously, another direct war, Afghanistan, right? Now, there are only so many, even with 9/11, direct war U.S. wants to wage and engage in, because you have two aspects. An entire international community, even within the Western European countries, they're going to say, WTF, it's that. And then with NATO, we went after Libya. How many wars? It just gets too much to digest, right? And simultaneously, the same kind of reaction is even more important for the United States when you have a reaction from the Muslim community. And it is all these countries in the region and saying, look at this. I mean, they are basically, it's a genocide against Muslims. Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya, Syria, and now Yemen, right? So it's important for the United States to wage some of these wars via proxy nations, okay? This is exactly what the United States tried to do, or has been trying to do, with Syria. To start with, the plan was using Turkey, okay? Because first of all, think about it. You get two Muslim countries, whether they are Shias and Sunnis, different one in even that doesn't matter. You get one Muslim country kill Muslims in another country, you're looking at a different kind of backlash in the Muslim region, Middle East and that whole region. Then when you have Christian Americans going there and NATO, the Western Europeans, and bombing the hell out of and killing with genocidal 500,000 people. So the plan was to have Erdogan. This was going to be a war waged on Syria via Erdogan. Now, even though they are puppets, whether it's Erdogan or Saudi Arabia, they have their limits too. Think about it. I mean, they're going to revolt my population. They're going to say our Muslim president, okay, in Turkey is going, and they have had great relationships, Syria and Turkey up until this point. Great pictures between Erdogan and Assad. So when he started being kind of saying, I don't want to do too much of this, Erdogan, the United States, what did they do? They started playing Fethullah Gulen card, right? And look at the timing with Syria and Gezi protests in Turkey. This is when suddenly there are these massive protests against Erdogan, telling Erdogan basically saying, you don't support us and do a lot of this, we're going to bring you down, okay? Now, let's move to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, there is no independent country regime. It is our puppet. Saudi Arabians, prince and kings, they don't pee without first saying, can I go and take a leak, okay? It's that managed, okay? And Saudi Arabia kingdom will not exist and be sustained without the United States. There will be a revolution in 24 hours. They will be all gone. Look at the population. You're looking at 0.0000001% of the population. But despite all this, Saudi Arabia going and bombing the hell out of Yemen, which is U.S. has been with drones bombing Yemens for how many years? That's not new. Why the United States has been bombing Yemens with the drones for the past 3 years? We have been killing tens of thousands of people already, okay? Saudi Arabia saying, despite everything, we are your butlers, but it's gonna cause revolution in Saudi Arabia for us to go after Yemen, another Muslim country. You know, why don't they go after Israel, right? They have so many more reasons, supposed for kingdom, Saudi Arabia. And for US to say, well, with your king dropping dead, let me put it that way. Oh, you don't do this. We are going to take some of the documents on 9/11 and very, very selectively expose some of your people, Saudi Arabia, you suckers, okay? Then we're going to come after you. Because they have been saying that because of our diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia, we don't want to piss them off. We are not releasing any records on 9/11 that is really directly related to these Saudis, which is our people. So it's directly related to us. And for Saudi Arabia to put that pressure to say, I don't care how you're afraid of revolution, you're going to do it for us in Yemen. Otherwise, here are the teasers. We're going to get our puppet, the CIA guy, Graham. We're going to put it on the media. We just want to give you a little taste. Imagine what we can do to you, okay? You little bastards. Imagine what we can do to you, little puppet bastards, our own bastards. Can you imagine what we would do? We will have sanctions. We will do this. In fact, we will get some of your kings and princes assassinated. We won't give the protection to show you what happens without us for you. I think that was the push, the nudge they needed. They had to get Saudi Arabia. And this has been this thing. It's like a bait saying, you know what? We can actually put out the stuff that, do you want us to make you look this? And if you look at the timings of these and Saudis bombing of Yemen, you're going to see that, I mean, Saudis don't have any reason. They are trying to make so much out of the Houthis and some of the stuff with Iran. And that's exactly the kind of things I want us to get into in depth in our next discussion. But I'm just giving you a little glimpse, maybe not so little, but a little glimpse of the theory I have and how this is set up and how this parallels with other proxy war that the United States wanted to wage against Syria using Turkey. And the kinds of cards they play, it's blackmail. It's blackmail, whether it is this. I mean, with Erdogan, they leaked the tapes, okay? CIA collected tapes. Well, here they have 28 pages on these Saudis. Not all of them are dead. A lot of them are still there. So that is the theory. That's the angle I'm going to come at when it comes to this topic. And I really would love for us to dissect it and look at it from different perspective. And as I said, for you to poke hole as many as you wish as I put that theory.
Well, excellent, and perhaps this is a good place to sort of pause, and we'll stop here and we'll continue this because now suddenly I've got like too many thoughts in my mind, and we could be here for a long time discussing all of this. But I think that's excellent, and again, as we were saying at the very beginning of this, everything is connected and related. And I mean, the parallels between what Erdogan was doing in Syria and now we've got Saudi Arabia in Yemen. And again, I mean, it is a powder keg in Saudi Arabia. I mean, the eastern part of Saudi Arabia is all Shia, and they have a very close, cultural connection with the Houthis. And, the Saudis don't want that to happen. And again, where's all the oil in Saudi Arabia? Oh, it's in the east. Oh, damn. Well, but yeah, I think that's a good point, to take, to stop here, and we'll be returning to this, obviously. And, again, I mean, we'd love to get the feedback. What do you, the viewers, think about what's going on in Yemen and Saudi Arabia? I mean, again, this gets very little critical coverage and critical analysis outside of, it's Iran good, Saudi's bad, or Saudi's bad good, Iran bad, that's sort of it. It's so base, it's so simple. So yeah, I think like I said, we'll end it here for right now, but let's return to this very soon. And just quickly, we're going to be recording again very soon. And just to format stuff, it won't always be the three of us. Sometimes we'll have a guest. Sometimes it'll be me and Guillermo. Sometimes it'll be Guillermo and Sibel, or vice versa. I mean, we'll be switching around with this. Next time, it's going to be me and Sibel. We're going to be talking with Tom Secker, who's our very good friend, and he is also going to have a brand new podcast here on BFP. And we're going to be talking about something again that is slightly kind of related to all of this. We're going to be talking about this revelation from Putin that they had intercepted all of these calls dealing with Al-Qaeda and Chechen rebels in Azerbaijan, of all places, something we've mentioned many times, Sibel. Talking with NATO and blah, blah, blah. And again, and it's just a teaser, that's sort of it. I mean, there's nothing else. And it never happened after that, according to Putin, I mean, it was just this one time in the 1990s. So that's a little bit of a preview for what we're going to be discussing next. And I don't know. I mean, I just want to say to everybody, thank you for listening to this and watching this opening episode. I'm so excited to be here, Sibel and Guillermo. I mean, this is like a dream come true. So, thank you all so much. I mean, if you guys have anything else to add, please. And if not, we'll be talking to you all very soon.
Guillermo, do you have anything to add?
No, I think Pearse did a good job there to close us out. Nothing.
Just a quick thing. Yeah. First of all, yummy. I can't wait to get to these topics. These are like delicious area. We're going to have that very, very interesting discussion with you and Tom Pearse. And then we are picking up them hopefully by next weekend or so with Guillermo, whenever we can coordinate the schedule on this topic. And we're going to dissect this, and I'm going to introduce my Iran angle and that. But meanwhile, this is our introductory video episode, so it's going to be open to all, and you guys are going to post it on your website. It's going to be on YouTube, but that is it. Afterwards, for each session, we will be presenting you these videos on our server at Boiling Frogs Post. So if you want to join the debate, join our activist community, watch these videos, help us further these discussions. And not only that, eventually start putting some of this information and all these concepts and all these understandings into action. Come and join us at Boiling Frogs Post. You can see how you can subscribe, and you will get access not only to access this show, our roundtable discussions, but we already have so many podcast episodes, and we are also introducing this coming week Tom Secker, and he's gonna have some unbelievable series. Come and join us. We want to hear from you. We want to read your comments. We want to discuss these issues with you. Join us and let's expand our base, our activist community base at Boiling Frogs Post, who are irate minority and who are saying heck with all this stuff, pseudo-alternative media and the mainstream media, and hope to see you all there. And we'll be back in less than 3-4 days.
Well, I guess you can't hurt. Nothing's on the television, on the networks. Take me out of context, take me out of here. Put the windows down, scream it out, really tune it out. There's something going